week. It's 9 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is On the Island. It's almost time to head to the polls. Candidates have just a few days left to make their case to voters. And so far, it's been a tough road, with violent demonstrations at some campaign stops, racist and misogynist insults hurled, and even someone throwing gravel at the Prime Minister. Farid Khan has been following the campaign closely. He's the founder of Canadians United Against Hate, and he joins us on the phone. Farid, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
In terms of the tone and the rhetoric, what has concerned you as you've watched this election campaign?
Well, I think the tone and the rhetoric that we've seen covered has disturbed me and a lot of Canadians, and it's this sense of anger. It's the use of hateful, racist, misogynistic language and insults and obscenities directed at Justin Trudeau and the Liberals at demonstrations, which have been primarily peopled by supporters of the People's Party of Canada. It's something that we haven't seen in Canada before, and it's very reminiscent of things that we saw during U.S. elections last year.
And maybe we shouldn't pay too much attention to the polls, but according to CBC's poll tracker, the People's Party of Canada is polling at just over 6% in popularity. Do you worry that they are a growing force in this country's politics?
Yes, I do. And even if they don't win a seat, that 6.2% is last time I looked. That 6.2% translates roughly into about 1.2 million votes if you overlay that on the voter turnout from the 2019 election. And the thing is that this is a party that is far right. It is racist. It is anti-immigrant, anti-refugee. It's anti-science. Its leader has refused to get vaccinated. He's violated COVID-19 restrictions in certain parts of the country, and I think he was charged for doing a event in Manitoba back in the spring. And I think that people need to be very worried, because they have gone from 1.7% in the 2019 election, and they were polling just around 2% during around 2% just when the election started, and they suddenly jumped to 6.4%. They've surpassed, almost doubled what the Green Party is polling at across the country. And that should be very concerning to Canadians, and certainly should be concerning to the mainline political parties who are being affected by vote leakage by the PPC.
There have been concerns in the mainline political parties as well. The NDP announced that two of their candidates have quit the federal election race because of anti-Semitic comments made on social media, and the Conservatives dropped their candidate into Toronto riding after Islamophobic tweets surfaced. Do you think there's a greater push for accountability from the parties in this election?
There is a greater push for accountability. I'm not surprised, given that we've had a year of reckoning with issues of racism and Islamophobia. But the thing is, these candidates who were dropped by the various parties, you have to look at where they're running and what their chances were. I think you will see that in all cases of where candidates were dropped, they were running in ridings where they had no chance of winning. So, on the surface of it, it is positive, but it's very symbolic. There was one instance with another conservative candidate who also posted or was found to have said racist comments, and the Conservatives didn't drop him. They just accepted his apology. And I think if you look at that one, you'll see that he has a chance of actually winning that seat, and they didn't want to give up that chance. So I think there's a bit of a shell game being played here with the parties saying that they're dropping certain candidates and not dropping others.
Another issue that's been raised during the election campaign that connects to issues of inclusion has been around Quebec's Bill 21, which prohibits any sort of visible religious symbols in public sector jobs. What do you make of the response or lack thereof from party leaders on this question?
Well, I think it's unacceptable, frankly. Here is a province that has implemented legislation that on its face is racist and bigoted, and two of the party leaders, Mr. O'Toole and Mr. Singh, have said they wouldn't do anything about it if they became Prime Minister. And in the case of Mr. Trudeau, when this issue came up in 2019, he said he would consider taking action, but then 2 years in office, and he's done nothing. And meanwhile, lives are being affected. People's lives are being undone because they can't pursue careers in those professions that are affected by this legislation. And every one of the parties has in their platforms commitment to defending human rights. Well, you know what? If you can't defend the human rights of Canadians in a province where they are being targeted by racist legislation, then how credible are you on the issue of defending human rights? And with respect to Mr. Blanchet, he talks about this as Quebec values, an expression of Quebec values, the bill. I would say then, if your values are that you're going to put in place racist laws that target certain groups within your society, then I think you need to rethink those values.
As a country with a relatively healthy democracy, Canadians get to decide what they will and won't stand for. So even if there may be candidates expressing views that you don't agree with, isn't that the power of the ballot box ultimately?
Well, yes, but I think we have to be careful how far we take that principle, because we've seen what extremist political voices can do in different settings. You look at what happened in the United Kingdom with UKIP, the United Kingdom Independence Party, which also was a very far-right party, and because of what they did, they unmade the connection of the UK to the European Union, and that has had very detrimental economic effects. In France, you've got Marie Le Pen, who also is the leader of a far-right party that promotes racist ideologies, and she came very close to winning the presidential election, last time being the second party on the ballot. And if we allow those sorts of voices to take hold in Canada, then we can see similar political disruptions and social attacks on the social fabric of Canada. And all we have to do is look at history to see what happens when extremist political parties and political voices are allowed to take root. I think we have to be careful about what we find acceptable in terms of the sort of political voices that we allow onto the national platforms.
Fareed Khan is the founder of Canadians United Against Hate. Fareed, thanks for joining us. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.